Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. We appreciate you being with us today. If you have not joined us before, I'm a sales coach trainer with over 48 years of experience working with salespeople and sales organizations to help them do one thing and one thing only: get measurable and sustainable sales increases. And I founded the Sales Pro Network to elevate the profession of sales, to be a place where salespeople and sales managers can come hang out, network with each other, and learn from each other, and to help you serve more customers and make more money. And if you've been with us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, we either do a live training or a live interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales. And once again, my friends, I've come through. Today's guest, his name is Ken Proctor. He's worked at every position from sales rep all the way up to CEO. He's the founder of the Great Point Group. He's a Vistage chair. And among other things, he helps leaders gain more confidence. It's my pleasure to welcome Ken Proctor. Good morning, Kenneth.
Good morning, Jeff.
Great to see you, my friend. Hey, before we get started with the 1,000,001 questions I have for you, and I've got plenty, could you maybe give us the 2 or 3 minute version of your background?
Sure. I grew up in Boston, and full disclosure, I'm a recovering salesperson. So, I started in sales. I grew up in sales before being elevated to other positions. Had a lot of different titles in the manufacturing business. And then most recently, I started a business, scaled it, sold it. And at 48, this is 10 years ago, I didn't know what to do next. So I engaged a coach, a career coach. And after a lot of discussions, he said, you need to be a coach. And I kind of liked that idea. And that was about 11 and a half years ago.
Wow. Got it. It's amazing how many salespeople do become CEOs, and how many CEOs I've met that have no idea about sales. That, they have a great idea, maybe often quite engineers or sometimes CEOs, but they have no ideas how to sell. And salespeople tend to understand the inner workings of what makes a company work. How do you relate to prospects and customers? How do you bring in the money? Because without that, you can have the best product or service in the world, but you're kind of screwed without somebody who can sell it. So the first thing I want to talk about is, and because I'm a Vistage speaker, I'm well aware of what Vistage is. I'm a huge fan. I love that. I often say that my ego loves a big audience. Give me 300-400 people or thousands of people in a room. I'm really happy. But the truth is, there's no group I'd rather speak in front of than 10 or 20 Vistage members. I consider it what I call a target-rich environment. You're sitting with a room full of decision makers. But for those who don't know what it is, can you tell us a little bit about Vistage and what being a chair means?
Sure. So Vistage was started 67 years ago by a guy who owned a company that manufactured valves in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And he was a pretty good engineer. He was not a great leader. And after a few years, he realized, I think I need some help with this. And he asked 3 friends, not in the valve business, hey, can we meet once a month and kind of help each other, process issues, things like that, sort of use each other as a sounding board? Well, 67 years later, we have 45,000 members. And basically, we meet once a month in groups, to your point, of between, anywhere from, say, 8 to 16 or 20. And we really challenge each other. We really push on each other. When I had my business, Jeff, if you were to ask me, hey, Ken, are you a micromanager? I would have said, no, I don't think so. If you were to ask my employees, Jeff, they would have said, oh, hell yes. Except I couldn't see it, right? And certainly nobody was going to tell me, because guess what? I signed their paychecks. These groups, we tell each other, we help bring awareness to one another, and we help one another with challenging problems.
Yeah. To me, the beauty of Vistage, and I've sat through many a Vistage meeting, is that, the CEO, it can be a very lonely job, because, there are things that you just can't go to your employees and talk about. And you're sitting with a room full of people who may have very well had the same experience that you're having, and can give you advice from experience, rather than just some expert like me who says, here's what you should do. You're talking to people who are walking the walk and talking the talk. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And, honestly, one of the great benefits is isolation relief. And, when I had my business, I can remember very clearly at one particular day coming home, and that day I found out we owed our factory $310,000. Quarterly taxes were due, and it was a payroll week. And I came through the door literally with my guts hanging out. And my wife said, how was your day? And I said, the day that I had. And she said, could you go pick up Kelsey at dance, our daughter? I didn't have anybody to talk to about that. Certainly I wasn't going to tell our leadership team, hey guys, should we make payroll or pay our taxes? What do you guys think? That's what this group is for.
Yeah. And you certainly can't stand in front of your employees and say, I'm not sure if I can pay you guys today.
Exactly correct. Exactly correct.
Beautiful. One of the things that I found interesting is you say that you don't coddle your children and you don't coddle your clients. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So, I saw something on LinkedIn today, Jeff, that there was a survey done for human resource managers and people that interviewed prospective employees. 19% of these folks surveyed said that, if you can believe it, candidates brought their parents. Oh my gosh, horrifying. What is the role of a parent, Jeff? The role of a parent, in my opinion, is to help prepare their children to transition from childhood to adulthood, to love them unconditionally, but to not be their friend, to help prepare them for a life of professional life. And that's not just coddling them. So I didn't coddle my kids. I challenged them. I pushed them because I wanted them to be successful professionally and as adults. It's the same thing with my clients. I've often told people, if you're looking for a coach that's going to be your friend, go ahead and hire a golden retriever. $25 an hour, no problem. And they'll just sit in your lap and love on you. If you want somebody who's going to challenge you and push you and challenge your answers and ask you really tough questions, then hire a coach.
Yeah, I'm smiling because it's always cool when you hear somebody saying the things that you say and thinking the things you think. When I take on a new coaching client, I always ask them, do I have permission to coach you? And they always go, sure, that's why I'm paying you. And I say, I'm going to ask you that question again in a moment. I want you to really think about it. And here's why I'm going to ask it to you again. Sometimes as a coach, I'm going to tell you things that you're not going to want to hear. I'm not here to just make you happy. I'm going to tell you the real deal. Do I still have permission to coach you? And by the way, the same thing with my children. It's so funny. I adore my children desperately. They're now 23 and my twins will be 22 in another couple of months. But when they were young, I remember one time, one of my kids, they were all sitting on the couch. Daddy, you're my best friend. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm not your best friend. I'm not even your friend at all. I mean, if you want to think I'm your friend, that's okay, but I'm your father. And that means I'm here to help turn you into the most magnificent human being I possibly can. It's not my job to be your friend. I don't care if you think I'm your friend. I don't even care if you love me. I want you to think that way. But the important thing is, I don't want you to go out in the world and get taught a lesson by police or other people. I'm going to have to be the dad sometimes. And, I think that is a challenge for many young adults these days, that their parents were too concerned about being loved and accepted and their best friend. That's not our gig.
That's exactly right. And, as I often say, and this is especially true in sales, Jeff, would you rather be liked or respected? If you want to be liked, please go ahead and get a job selling ice cream. Everybody will always like you. I am here to be respected first, and hopefully liked comes from it. But I am not going to serve up softball questions just to be liked. I did that when I started Vistage. I launched my group quickly because I'm a pretty good salesperson. And I went from 9 members to 11 members to 5 members. And guess what? It was my fault. And I own that because I was trying to be liked.
Yeah, I think you'll appreciate this. My twins just graduated college in the last couple of weeks. And as I'm sure you know, and anybody who's listening knows, there have been a lot of protests on college campuses. And my daughter's college campus, they arrested 135 kids for protesting.
Oh boy.
And they had to move the graduation indoors and separate the different schools and blah, blah, blah. And the president of the college wrote an apology letter to the parents. And I'm really sorry about this, but I had to do this and we didn't want to and blah, blah, blah. I wrote back to him. I said, if you find my kid out there protesting, feel free to arrest her too. You're not there to be nice. You're there to do the job. And I said, I really appreciate the education she's gotten and all that stuff. But it's not about being a nice person. And look, I am a nice person and I care about people, but you don't always help people just by telling them what they want to hear and being that nice guy.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
right.
with you, my friend. So what do you think is the single greatest attribute that a salesperson can be told they have?
I've asked that question recently to a bunch of my clients and members, and I've gotten a lot of different answers. And I hear things like integrity, they're good listeners, things like that. They're empathetic. In my mind, the single best attribute somebody can give you or accolade is, that guy, Jeff, I trust him. he's trustworthy. In my mind, it doesn't get better than that. Now, trust is an ambiguous word. All that go along is with trust. I saw recently that according to Google, Jeff, the average person knows 750 people, 750 clients, family, friends, whatever. How many people do you know that consistently do what they're going to say they're going to do 95% of the time? So when
Not 750.
I ask that question to people, and typically the response I get is somewhere between 2 and 3. So you're talking about less than 0.5%, right? What happens to your life when you become one of those people that do what they say they're going to do, vis-a-vis trustworthy? And there's so few people that you absolutely stand apart. So in my mind, if you want to give me the greatest accolade I could possibly receive, especially in sales, oh yeah, Ken Proctor, man, that guy is trustworthy. I don't think it gets better than that.
Yeah. And it's not just people, it's companies, which is why I so often have to beat companies up and say, stop using customer service as a differentiator. Because every company says we give great customer service, but if you take a look at companies where you're the recipient, you're their customer, how many really deliver great customer service? I believe today, if you deliver okay customer service, you're already a step ahead above most companies. And if you really do deliver outstanding customer service, if you're going to use that as a differentiator, you better give an example in a story where people go, oh, I see. Because I don't know about you, Ken, but when I hear a salesperson say, oh, we give great customer service, my mind automatically goes, yeah, sure.
And Jeff, to your point, I always, when people say that to me, I always ask the question, what's your definition of great customer service? Because it's probably not mine. So I want to know what a definition of great customer service is before I say, yeah, we give great customer service. I want to know what you think.
Yeah. I have several long stories about that, but we don't have time for it. But I can tell you a company that does, Zappos. Zappos gives great customer service, and if you've ever read Tony's book, it says we're not a shoe company. We're a customer service company that happens to sell shoes.
Interesting that you choose Zappos, because my former business, I was in the shoe business, and I was good friends with Tony, and Zappos was my client. And I'm going to tell you, I have yet to see a culture better than theirs.
Amazing. Yeah. Hello Direct is another one. They're a telecommunications company. Again, it's a 20-minute story. I don't want to waste anybody's time, but when a company really does care about their customer, even if it might cost them some money sometimes, you become a raging lunatic fan. You tell 1 million people, and it's just smart business. Even if I have to take a little loss, I want my clients thrilled. I often say, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, Ken, I'm not looking for you to be a happy client. Happy clients are a dime a dozen. I'm looking for you to be ecstatic. I'm looking to thrill you. And I'm doing it, by the way, for selfish reasons. I know that if I exceed your expectations, that you and I are going to do business a long time, and that's something I want. And the other thing is, you're going to give me referrals without me even having to ask for it. So that's why I'm going to bend over backwards and break my own back to make sure that you're not just happy, you're thrilled. To me, it's just common sense.
I agree. I present it a little bit differently. I always ask the question, what needs to happen for you to become an evangelist of our company or of me as a coach? What specifically, I need some measurables. What are they? Yeah, because I don't know the answer, and my answer might differ than yours, but I'm going to ask the client.
It's brilliant. And it's right in line with my philosophy of, if you ask the right questions and listen actively, your prospect will tell you everything you need to know in order to help them choose to become your customer. And I call it a future-based. To me, sales is all about the questions. It's not about your presentation or your close. It's about asking the right questions and listening. And one of the types of questions I always ask and teach people to ask is a future-based question. And an example would be kind of similar to what you just said. So if you were a VP of sales with 100 salespeople and I wanted to do training with you and we're engaged in a conversation, at some point I'm going to say, hey, Ken, I'm curious about something. Let's assume you and I choose that we're going to do business together. And 6 months from now, we're sitting here in your office again. What would have to have happened in the last 6 months for you to say, holy crap, Jeff, I am so happy that I met you?
That's it.
They're telling you exactly what they want. And then assuming you can give it to them, all you have to say, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
That's it. Again, same philosophy. When I meet with a prospect, I always ask the same 4 questions to start. Number 1, hey, Jeff, we're scheduled for an hour. Are we still good for an hour? Yes. Got it. What is your desired outcome from our meeting today? First question. And then what would cause you to walk away after an hour and say, man, that was a great meeting with Ken? And then finally, what should my expectations be around the process of bringing on a coach?
Love that.
And then whatever they say, what do you think I'm going to speak about, Jeff? Exactly what they just said.
Yeah.
How hard is that?
It's not. I can't tell you how many times I've said sales is not rocket science. You only need half a brain to do it. And I love saying that because my oldest daughter is a rocket scientist, literally. She's got a degree in aerospace engineering. You don't have to be as smart as Avery to be good in sales.
Amen.
I'm 99.9% sure that we agree to the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. You've said that you can be more influential with your ears than your tongue. What does that mean to you?
I've said that because I meet a lot of salespeople that think that, let me just keep talking to Jeff and I will get him to engage with me and get him to sign the contract. And you just said it, Jeff. Really what I want to do is I want to ask Jeff a whole bunch of questions and then listen carefully, but not only listen to the answers, listen for intent. Most salespeople do not listen for intent. They listen, and while Jeff's talking, they think, okay, Jeff's going to say this, and then as soon as he's done talking, I'm going to come back with that. You can't do that. You have to become a world-class listener and listen to understand, not reply. And you have to listen for intent. And that's what I mean, and when you go into a presentation, if I'm talking the entire time, am I really doing anything to engender a higher degree of trust between us? I'm going to be asking you a ton of questions and then listening to your answers.
To me, that's what the sales process is all about. There's a word that I hate, and I've said this a million times on this podcast, and it's the word pitch. I want that word out of salespeople's vocabulary. I understand that when people talk about pitch, what they really mean is presentation. But pitch to me, look, I've been in sales 49 years now. I understand how to pitch, and I've done it. I sold Encyclopedia Britannica. It was all a pitch. But real sales is not about a pitch. It's about asking the right questions, what you just said, listening actively, which most salespeople suck at, and then making a presentation based on, if I've got what you want, telling you, look, here's what you're looking for. That's exactly what I can do in some way, shape, or form.
That's it. And you know what? A pitch. If I said to you, hey, Jeff, how many people do you think enjoy being pitched? Let me help you. 0. Okay. And a pitch, in my opinion, connotates that I'm going to sell you something. And look, let's be honest. The word salesman does not have a positive connotation because it is, this person's going to try to sell me something that I probably don't need. So I've always challenged salespeople to replace sales with solve. What are you solving? To understand what needs to be solved, you better ask questions and then you better listen.
Yep. And I'm going to add in and come from a place of service. Your job is to serve. Solve. I like solve too. I haven't used that before, but solve and serve, because that's the gig. And if you do the thing that most salespeople are really not good at, which is prospect consistently, then you're speaking to enough people and you're going to run into enough people where you can solve and serve them. And that's, again, not rocket scientists.
That's right. And, I'm very fond of using the term to salespeople, you're overwhelming me with your commission breath. Oh my gosh. And so I'm always challenging people, listen, understand if I'm meeting you, here's what I'm going to say to you. I want to understand exactly what your challenges are, Jeff. And then I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions so I can understand what really needs to be solved. And if I believe that I can do it, we can go to the next step of the process. But if I don't, hey, you know what? My network is vast and I'm happy to refer you to somebody that might be a better fit. What do you think that does to the trust meter?
Way up, way up. Look, I've got two main competitors. I've got thousands and thousands of competitors, but right here on Long Island, I've got two main ones. And we've shared, I've referred business to them and they've referred business to me when I felt, I'm not the right guy. Let me introduce you to my friend Adrian or my friend, Rich. One of the things I've taught my kids in terms of not being their friend, but teaching them about life is ADTRT. It's an acronym that I coined. Always do the right thing. Yeah. And that includes, even though I might want or even need sometimes to make money, sometimes the right thing is, I'm not right for you. Let me introduce you to somebody who can help you. And, because I believe this, that I do believe that what goes around comes around. And if I do something for you, Ken, and you never help me in any way, somehow I do believe that the universe is going to pay me back. And I'm not concerned about it.
I agree. And, if you think about social media platforms, Really what that is about using social media to essentially digitize your reputation, to digitize your brand. That's what it's for. What do you want your brand to be? You know, do you want me to just post a bunch of pictures and say about me and say, so humbled to receive Salesman of the Year? That doesn't do anything to engender trust.
Yes. And well, I do think there's a difference between like something like Facebook and LinkedIn, but I really don't care what you had for breakfast. It's not of interest to me. Maybe it is to somebody, or what your latte looks like. Give me information I can really use. Help me. That's what I get a third of my business from LinkedIn. And incidentally, I got an email from LinkedIn this morning celebrating 20 years on there. I did not realize I'd been on LinkedIn for 20 years. But yeah, the way I get business on LinkedIn is not the way most salespeople try to do it ineffectively, which is I reach out to you to connect with you. You accept my connection request. And the next thing you know, I'm trying to pitch you something.
Oh my gosh.
I just post content every day, and I'm giving away the advice that I sell to people every single day. I'm just giving it away. Here's another thing that'll help you sell better. Here's another thing that'll help you manage better. And 30% of my business comes from people reaching out to me, raising their hand and saying, hey, Jeff, I've been following you for 6 months. Love what you're saying. I want to talk to you about being my coach or my trainer, whatever it is.
That's it.
It's not that difficult. What do you see as the greatest evolution in salesmanship in the last, say, 20 years?
You know, probably technology, which I have mixed emotions about. There is a app or a program called Crystal Knows, and it's basically AI. Okay, and Crystal Knows will look at all of your social media posts, everything, and help you create an email that sounds like you to send to prospects. So, you know, those are things that, you know, obviously you and I are about the same age. We never had growing up. That's probably the greatest evolution. But the more technology that's available, the more I'm going to default to, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And you have to make a human connection. Somebody reached out to me today and asked me how I use AI in my LinkedIn posts. Yeah, I don't.
Me either.
I just, because AI is plagiarizing somebody else's thoughts and consolidating them and being efficient with them. I think there's something to authenticity. So yes, technology has helped evolve sales, but I'm going to default to authenticity. Yeah. Human beings are craving authenticity because the world becomes less or more egocentric by the moment.
Yeah, I can always tell when somebody's post was written by AI. Like you, I do not use it to write my LinkedIn posts. And look, I have no problem with somebody who does. It's just I can tell, and it's all about relationship. I don't want a relationship with a robot. What I do use AI for example, is if I'm going to write an email cadence. You know, I need 7 emails about this. I'll plug that into something like ChatGPT, but then I take what ChatGPT spits out and I now make it my own. I make it human, or whatever client I'm doing that for, because first of all, when you ask AI to write an email, everyone starts with, hope you're doing great today.
Yeah.
Well, I just got 7 emails in a row from you over 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. All hope you're doing great today. A human's not going to ask that same thing every single time in the same place. Right. So yeah, you got to make it your own. When you meet with prospects today to sell your services, what's the most important outcome you want to achieve? I mean, obviously you want to close business, but what's the most important thing to you?
Alignment of expectations. That's most important to me because not everybody is going to be a fit for me. And I want to make absolutely certain that what you're looking for is what I provide and what I'm looking for is what you offer. So I want to make sure that we are aligned in expectations. And most people, you know, I will refer to those that reek of commission breath, just close the sale, close the sale, close the sale. If you're doing that, close the sale, I can tell. And I don't really care about what your expectations are. I just want to sell you and get the commission on this. So in my opinion, Jeff, it's alignment of expectations and agreement to next steps.
Yep. Oh, always. And I especially like the second part, you know, are you what I'm looking for? So many salespeople just want to close any piece of business. I believe every salesperson and every sales organization has got to have an ideal client profile so that they know exactly what the best client looks like for them. I have some very strict definitions of what's right for me, and I don't break them for anybody. A couple of examples. First of all, if you're not going to pay me exactly what I charge, I'm not interested in doing business with you because I don't negotiate a penny. You want to negotiate? Let me introduce you to somebody else. Here's what I charge. That's it. If you're not going to pay me according to my terms, which is I get paid in advance for everything I do. If I'm doing training, I don't leave the house unless your check is cleared my bank. And the reason for that is when I started my business, I interviewed a lot of business people that I respect, and almost to a person, they're like, business is great, can't get paid to save my life. I never have a problem getting paid because you paid me before I've done the job. You know, I want people who are going to be fun to work with. I'm too old and cranky. And by the way, I think I've got at least 10 years on you. I'm too old and cranky to put up with anybody who's not going to be enjoyable. I'm not going to work with anybody who's not going to take my advice. Why would you pay me the amount of money I charge, whether it's $1 or $1 million? Why would you pay me for my expertise and then not take my advice? You don't want to? Go waste somebody else's time. I don't need your business that badly. I just don't. So unless you as the salesperson of the sales organization know what you're looking for, you're likely to take on clients and then be bitching about them. Oh, I hate working with this customer. I love all my customers. And if I don't, I fire them. I do. And I'm not saying that to be, off the cuff there, or you're saying, I'm better than anybody. It's just that if it's not working out for me, well, if it's not working out for you, you as a client should fire me. And if it's not working out for me, let me introduce you to somebody else again. Let's end the engagement. I'm too old and cranky to be miserable. I just don't want to do it. Sure. And again, the only thing that allows me to do that is because I am consistently prospecting. I have people waiting in the wings for you fire me, I fire you, or whatever happens. There's always somebody waiting. If you don't, then that's when you do have commission breath and you're trying to put square pegs in round holes. I love the way you think, Ken. What are the hallmarks? We talked about my hatred of the word pitch, but what are the hallmarks of a great pitch or presentation?
Again, I guess I default back to alignment of expectations. I told you about the 3 questions or 4 questions that I always ask. And to me, there is no such thing as a pitch. There's none. There's a conversation. And it's, again, making certain that at the end of the conversation, we are in agreement on alignment or misalignment and next steps. And, something that I always make sure, if we are going to the next steps, I always tell people about my no ghosting policy.
Tell me about that.
So when I started out at Vistage, I got ghosted so often, Jeff, I could have built a small condominium if ghost was an avenue. Trust me. Okay. And I got tired of that. So if you and I are talking and we believe that there is alignment and we believe that we're going to move to the next step, I will say to you, Jeff, are you familiar with the term ghosting? Yes. Okay. So I have a very strong no ghosting policy. So I am going to ask you for your commitment to not ghost me. But in return, I'm going to offer you my no stalking policy. So if sometime between now and our next meeting, you decide you're going another way, I'm going to ask you for your commitment to simply text me and say, hey, I've decided to go another way. Best of luck. And you have my commitment that I won't say, gee, we had such a good meeting, Jeff. Let me put you on a drip campaign. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because I'm not going to stalk you. I'm not going to send you 96 emails between now and next week about who I am and what I do. I won't do that. So before we go any further, would you please give me your commitment to not ghost me?
Damn, I love that.
Wait for them to do it.
Yeah. So, you talked about next steps a couple of times. That's, to me, I always say to salespeople, this is the most important thing I can teach you. Never leave a meeting or a phone call without setting up the next meeting or phone call. Because I'm constantly, Jeff, I'm getting ghosted all the time. Yeah, you're not saying, I'll give you a call or you give me a call. That's not the way business works. I know I can't just walk into my lawyer's office unannounced. I can't go to my doctor unannounced unless, I've cut off my hand and blood's streaming out of my arm. Maybe he'll see me immediately. Salespeople should consider themselves professionals, like a doctor, like a lawyer, like an accountant. I can't go to my dentist without an appointment. and getting ghosted sucks. It wastes your time. It kills your attitude. And I've never thought about talking about a no ghosting policy, but I might borrow that if I might.
Please do. Ghosting is wholly unprofessional, and I won't tolerate it.
Of course it is, except often the person you're trying to speak to doesn't care about that. I return every call. I return every email, even if it's just say not interested. Be polite, be courteous. It's just I get that everybody's busy. I'm busy too, and I know you are too. It takes 2 seconds to say, I'm not interested. And I get why people don't, because they do believe that as salespeople, we're not now going to argue with them. I'm not. I'm just not. I was married for 10 years. I don't need any more arguments. I'm good with that. I want to ask you about something in particular that I saw on your LinkedIn feed because I thought it was great. You were once asked an incredibly tough question on a job interview. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but
I do.
Oh, great. Can you please tell us about that and how you handled it? I thought it was great.
Yeah. So it was back in 1995, and I was applying for a job at the Timberland Company. And it was a very sought after job. And they had 200 resumes, and they interviewed 20 of us. And they went from 20 to 15 to 12 to 8 to 5 to 2. And I made it all the way up to the 2. And the guy interviewing me, his name is Tom, said, we're going to bring you in. We're going to ask you one question to which there's no right or wrong answer. We're going to give you 30 minutes to think about it. We're going to do the same thing with the other candidate. You'll have our answer by 5 o'clock. Okay. So I go in there. Tom says, you ready? I'm ready. Here's the question. You are trying to get a job at a company that sells pencils. And the guy interviewing you says, Ken, we're going to drop you off this account downtown. We've been trying to sell this guy pencils for 19 years. And for 19 years, he's been buying pencils from his brother-in-law. He's never bought a pencil from us. Now, our pencils are the same price, quality, shipping, eraser, color. Everything is exactly the same. If you can get an order from this guy, I'm going to give you a job. But you need to know something. Today's his last day. He's retiring as of tomorrow. So it's a one-shot deal. How do you get the order?
Oof.
Yeah. And with that, Tom got up and he said, I'll see you in 30 minutes. And my immediate thought was, I need to change my diaper. That was immediate. Like, oh my gosh. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, what did I learn in college? Nothing. That was over in 9 seconds. Okay. So now I've got 29 minutes and 51 seconds. And I'm thinking about this. There's no product differentiation. There's no time to really form a relationship. It's last day today. It's a one-shot deal. You know, maybe I'll find out what he likes to do in retirement. Maybe he likes to golf. I'll buy him a set of golf clubs. Well, it's a little bit unethical. You know, maybe I'll just drop the price. You know, not so good. And then I finally came up with the answer. And the answer was, let me ask him for an introduction to who's going to take his place. So I go out, I find Tom, and I said, hey, when does the new buyer start? He said, you know, that's a great question. In 3 weeks. Well, okay, now I'm dead in the water there. So
you need the order today, right? You've got to get the order today.
I have to get the order today. So Tom comes back. He said, you have an answer? I said, I do, but everything's the same. Price, quality, shipping, exactly the same. Guy's definitely leaving as of tomorrow. Then I would say to the guy, look, you don't know me. I'm trying to get a job at this company that sells pencils. I know they've been trying to sell you for 19 years, and for 19 years been buying from your brother-in-law. And I know that you're retiring tomorrow. But the guy interviewing me never quantified the order, how big the order needed to be. So if you can see your way clear to give me an order for 5 pencils, you can retire tomorrow with a satisfaction of knowing that as you finish your career, you helped a young man start his. And Tom leaned back and he said, you know, that's the best answer I ever heard. And I worked at Timberland for several years. And it kind of goes to the point, Jeff, is that I tend to look at people as people, not titles, not, you know, director of procurement or, you know, whatever. I look at them as people first. And so I tried to appeal to this person as a person, not as a title.
Yeah, it's great. I love that. We're a little more than halfway through this interview, and we'll be right back in 60 seconds after a word from our sponsor, which is me. Hi, I'm Jeff Goldberg, the founder of the Sales Pro Network. For nearly 5 decades, I've been selling, managing, coaching, and training salespeople internationally. And I'm often asked for one-on-one or private coaching, but it does involve a substantial investment. For that reason, I've recently developed the Sales Pro Insider Network community. It works like this. We get together twice a month on Tuesday nights from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. At the first session of the month, it's you and me, with me taking your questions and giving you the advice and help you need to both prospect and sell more effectively. At the second session of the month, we'll have a guest coach speaking on a fascinating topic that helps sellers like you and me. And of course, we'll do group coaching then too. The best part is the investment is just $27 for the first month, and there's no long-term contract at all. In fact, you can cancel at any time. Go to crushsalesgoals.com. That's crushsalesgoals.com. I hope to see you there. We're back with Ken Proctor. He is the founder of the Great Point Group, and he's a Vistage chair and a leadership coach. I'm very excited about our guest this month, by the way, Ken. I've got Craig Siegel, the author of The Reinvention Formula. He's a mindset guru and a really awesome guy. And if you're listening to the podcast and you'd like to come to that meeting for free, you can either DM me or email me at jeff@jgsalespro.com, and I will be glad to send you a link for a free visit to the Sales Pro Insider Network. Ken, let's get back to you. What causes price objections? I know I get that all the time, Jeff. If our prices were better, we'd be able to close more business. Duh. That's not the name of the game, though. So what do you think causes price objections, and how do we handle them?
Yeah, easy. Perceived lack of value. I mean, to me, that's everything. If somebody says to me, and I've had this, somebody, when they asked me what I would charge them to do a half-day workshop, they kept pressing me for the price, even though I said, I really have to understand the scope. Finally, I just gave him a price, and the guy looks at me and he goes, well, that's kind of expensive, isn't it? And I just simply looked at him and I said, compared to what? And, I hadn't done a good enough job explaining the value that I would be bringing. That's on me. Okay. So to me, there is a lack of perception of value. And by the way, also, Jeff, guess what? Sometimes something's too expensive. That's a smokescreen. And as a salesperson, you have to learn to understand what a smokescreen is and what the real objection is. Because typically your first objection is not the real objection, which is why you have to ask questions behind that to really understand what the issue is. So something is too expensive. Again, it's a lack of perception.
Yeah. And there's a difference between that's too expensive and I can't afford it. I can't afford it means I want what you've got. I just don't have the money.
Yeah.
But I agree completely. When somebody says that's too expensive, they just don't see the value. There's a reason why people will pay $200,000 for a Lamborghini and other people buy a Honda for $35,000. They see the value either way. And I'm not here to judge right or wrong. You like Hondas? Great. You like Lamborghinis? Great too. But it's because you see the value in having a flashy, impressive car that goes really fast and looks cool and not everybody has, as opposed to having a reliable car that's more affordable. I'm not judging, but you're absolutely right. It's how do I form a relationship where you have that feeling of I can trust Jeff? He's a guy who I believe is going to do the right thing for me. And how do I show you enough value that you're willing to say, you know what? I'm willing to part with some of my hard-earned cash to get coaching from Ken or Jeff or whatever it is they're looking for, 1,000,000%. And again, salespeople make sales too complicated. It's really not. I'm not saying that sales is an easy gig because it's mentally draining. There's a lot of work to do, but it's not that hard. Follow a process where you establish that relationship, find out what they really need, and show them how you're going to give it to them, and show them that there is enough value. And part of the deal, Ken, is most salespeople don't understand the brain science behind making a buying decision. Because I don't know if you're aware, but when we're making a buying decision, the brain automatically thinks negatively to protect us from making a bad decision.
That's right.
And that's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's just what we do. Oh, what if I use Ken and don't become a better leader? What if I use Jeff and my sales don't increase? That's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's just we're trying to protect ourselves from making one more bad decision in our lives or in our business. So we as salespeople have got to help people get past that automatic negative protection device. And to me, the way we do that is by showing enough perceived value, by establishing a relationship. And I call it by telling a story about somebody else like you, Ken, who did business with me and lived happily ever after.
Well, you also have to monetize the value of what you do. So I had a client, billion-dollar client, who they were really troubled because they had a 42% turnover rate in employees, 42%, right? And when we talked about this, they asked me, what I charge, and I told them, like, wow, it's kind of a lot. And I said, let me ask you a question. 42%, how many people does that equate to? And then let's take each person and multiply their salary by 1.5 times, which is what it costs in lost revenue, lost productivity, before you find somebody and get them up to that level. Okay. So let's come up with that number. Now, how expensive am I? If I can drop that from 42% to say 32% over a year, and I worked with them for 2 years.
Yeah.
But I had to monetize the value,
Agreed. Look, I can't count the amount of times where people have said, wow, that's a lot of money. Yes. I'm good at what I do. I'm really good at what I do, and I'm worth every penny. And yes, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Here's the thing in my mind. Nobody ever hires me for my good looks. Nobody. And, I know what people are looking for. They're looking for their sales to increase. What's the value on that? What's the value of getting more appointments with decision makers, shortening your sales cycle, and closing more business more profitably? If I'm going to charge you X, but you're going to see Y return, isn't it worth it? And again, if people say no, I'm okay with that, because I've got other people who are waiting to talk to me or waiting to do business with me, and I don't need everybody. I just need enough people. That's my feeling. Something else I found interesting in a post of yours, you suggest that people often work with coaches because they're unaware. And often the things they're unaware of are obvious to everyone else, but in many cases, the people around them won't point it out to them. Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Really what a coach does is a coach helps you hear what you're not hearing and see what you're not seeing. So I had a client that she was CEO of a large company, and she would often, when in our discussion, she would often say, "Oh yeah, no, I tried that," or "No, that's not going to work. I tried that." And I finally said to her, "All right, look, what's with this business? What's with the waving off? What are you talking about? I mean, you're waving me off. And if you're doing it to me, you're doing it to everybody. And it's incredibly passive aggressive. So what's the foundation of that?" She had no idea she was doing it, but it was off-putting. So I had to bring that to her, to make her aware. And, look, my own mother has a habit of going, "Well, I did tell you that. I did," pointing. And I finally would say to her, "All right, look, put the gun away, please. It's incredibly passive aggressive. Don't do it." She wasn't aware, Jeff. That's what a coach does. A coach helps you bring awareness to something that you're not seeing that could be off-putting to somebody.
Yeah. The great coach Vince Lombardi, and I'm paraphrasing, said that a great coach is someone who gets you to do the things that you don't want to do in order to be the person that you want to be.
Well, that's exactly right. One of the things that I coach people a lot that I find is a big problem is hijacking somebody. So if I ask you, didn't you just come back from vacation? "Oh yeah, my wife and I just spent a week in Cabo." "Oh, I love Cabo. I've been to Cabo a million times. And the last time we were in Cabo, we went deep sea." Whoa, 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 whoa. What did you just do to me? You dismissed me. You turned the conversation back on yourself. How is that engendering trust? How is that deepening our engagement? Stop hijacking me. And people are like, "Oh my gosh, I wasn't even aware that I was doing it." You're doing it. That's what you pay me for.
Yep. 100%. And in another recent post, you pointed out an example of a CEO who had a parking spot reserved for themselves right by the front door, which I think is pretty typical. Don't CEOs deserve the number one spot? Why did you point that out?
The CEO, he's the CEO of several large companies under his umbrella of his corporation, right? And when you park, and by the way, the guy drives a Bentley. Okay. And when you park that right in front of your office and the sign says reserved for the CEO, what message do you think that sends to the employees?
I'm more important than you are.
Exactly. And guess what? You do that, it's going to cause a little bit of resentment, especially when it's pouring out. Right. And so I think the quote that I put is like, act like you can't afford the cupcake until they find out that you own the bakery. Right. That, I really believe that. And I referenced a client of mine at the Houstonian Hotel, which is a 5-star property here in Houston. And this guy, Steve, whenever he meets a new employee, even if we're just walking in the hotel, he'll say, "Hi, I'm Steve Fronterhouse. We work together."
Oh, that's great.
So imagine the optics on that versus, "Hey, I'm running and leading this whole property and you report to me." I often will tell people, we'll say, "Oh yeah, Jeff, he works for me." No. Jeff works with me. Put it that way, and you'll engender a higher degree of trust.
Yeah. And I've run into many CEOs who are just so self-unaware that it's beyond belief. One of the things I do is I do outsourced sales management. So I'll manage a sales team on a fractional basis. And I was working at a payroll company years ago, managing a team for this guy, and I was talking to the CEO one day. And by the way, he was the type of guy his salespeople used to constantly complain. I asked for a $25 raise, and he said, I can't afford it. And one day I'm in his office, and he's showing me pictures of a Lamborghini. I said, wow, that's a gorgeous car. I happen to love Lamborghini. He goes, yeah, I just bought it. I said, do me a favor. Never, ever drive that car to this office.
That's
Never.
right.
You can't tell your people that you can't afford to give them a $25 raise and then pull up an $180,000 automobile. That's insane.
Right. Yep. Agreed.
Just not smart. Something else you say is that you suggest the tragedy of life is not found in failure, but in complacency. What does that mean?
Good question. Thank you for asking. I believe that when I die, I want to slide headfirst into the pit, covered in the sweat and the dirt of life. Okay. I don't want to get comfortable. And, probably now 11 years ago, I changed the moniker of my life in my family to Chief Memory Maker. And as such, I would take our family on vacations once a year, and we would have to do something outside of our comfort zone because that's where growth happens. And we would do different things, and we would really push the kids and my wife outside of their comfort zone to grow. I don't want to ever be complacent. I just want to be a little bit better than I was yesterday, because when you become complacent, I think life slows down, you get comfortable, you get boring, and you're not evolving. And I think life is about evolving and getting better every day.
Yeah. Tony Robbins calls that CANI, constant and never ending improvement.
Yeah.
And I co-authored a book on setting and achieving goals. And we talk about, all you need is to get a little bit better. And it doesn't even have to be every day. I mean, every day is a great idea. But what if you make yourself just a little bit better once a week? That's 52 improvements a year. How about once a month? 12 improvements a year. Are you going to be better next year than you are this year? Look, I'm all in favor of quantum leaps, but it's not necessary. Little bit of improvement every day, just a little bit better, makes a huge difference. And something that you and your family do to make a difference, which I found fascinating. Actually, you and your family, and I believe a friend's family, you do something interesting on Memorial Day. What is that? And you also did something in that to dramatically increase your sales. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So actually, this is a few years ago when my kids were younger. I asked my daughter, what is the meaning of Memorial Day? And she said, it's a day off from school. You know what, Jeff? I failed as a parent. I'm going to own that, right? I didn't do a good job of explaining, I'm a very strong supporter of the military. I really appreciate people's service. So some friends of ours were having a lemonade stand, and they asked if we wanted to join. Sure. So we were out there for 4 hours in the hot Houston sun, and we made $200. Okay, great. Okay. Well, I thought we could do better. So the next year we put some advertising up. We went to HEB, which is the local grocery store. We asked them to donate the supplies, because every penny we earned, not profits, every penny we earned went to the Wounded Warrior Foundation. Okay. And they donated. And that year we did $1,000. Okay. It's got a little smarter. And then the last year we did it about 2:30, 3 o'clock. And we, again, put a lot of, did a lot of advertising. We got some news coverage. We got some paper coverage. But it started pouring, and the kids made homemade signs, right? And crayons and whatnot. And the kids wanted to go in. Absolutely not. The soldiers didn't get to go home when it was pouring out. We're not. And so they're out there. It is pouring down rain, and the signs are all smudged and whatever. Every single car stopped, every car. And instead of, they didn't even want the lemonade. They just would donate money, $10, $50. Somebody donated $250, okay? And we made over $5,000 in the same 4 hours. It was just incredible. And we have since handed off the lemonade stand to somebody else to pick it up, because our kids were getting a little bit older. But it was a great learning experience for us all.
Yeah, and one of the things you did, there's a lot of great stuff in that story, but one of the things you did is what I call doing what the other guy, and by guy, I don't mean man or woman, but the other person won't. For example, making calls on a Friday afternoon. Most salespeople, nah. Or the week between Christmas and New Year's, nah. Yep. I love doing what the other guy isn't doing because it sets me apart. And I can't tell you how many times I love the example of calling people at the holidays. Why would you bother? Nobody's going to pick up the phone. Everybody's in holiday mode. Yes, they are in holiday mode. That's a great time to talk to people. I actually have sandbag deals just to make sure I close a deal between the week of Christmas and New Year's, so I can stand in front of audience and say, "I do it. Why can't you?" That's head trash. In my group coaching community last month, we had an expert who talked about head trash, the little voice inside your head that's constantly talking to you and telling you about why you can't do something.
And you know what, Jeff? I use a little different term. It's walking around in your head with dirty feet.
I like that.
That's the same thing as head trash.
Yeah. Well, I'm not getting those calls now, but for the last month and a half, and this happens at this time every year, it's Jeff, what am I going to do? Everybody knows you can't sell during the summer. It's almost summer. What am I going to do? Well, who says you can't sell during the summer? By the way, Ken, I always ask them the same question when they tell me you can't sell during the summer. Why can't you sell during the summer? And I get the same answer every time, because everybody's on vacation. No, they're not. No, they're not. I didn't take a vacation at all last summer. Now, I happen to live a block from the beach and I can walk to it anytime I want. So I consider myself living on vacation, but I poll people all the time. About a third of the people I spoke to actually took a vacation, and none of them took the entire summer off. They take a week, 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. It's head trash. We talk ourselves out of business instead of talking ourselves into it. Another thing that you said, which I thought was great, and I'd like to get some clarification. You said, change the people around you when you can't change the people around you.
Yeah.
Tell me, what's that mean?
So full disclosure, in my previous industry, I was around knuckleheads. I mean, it's true. I mean, not everybody, but a lot of knuckleheads. And guess what, Jeff? I was a knucklehead. And when I started doing what I'm doing, right, I became a lot smarter. I realized I can't change those people that were in my previous industry. So I changed the people around me and I started hanging around with smarter people. And by default, I became smarter. I became more aware. You want to upgrade the people that you're around. You know, if you're playing tennis, you don't ever get better by playing people below your capability. You get better by playing people above your capability. Same thing in life.
Got it. By the way, you talked about previous employments. You were never a priest, were you? Because one of our viewers is saying, Ken looks like my priest.
No, I was not a priest, no.
Got it. Okay. Every salesperson I know wants more referrals. I certainly do. In your opinion, what makes someone referral worthy?
Yeah, great question. Not tenure, not like I know a guy who knows a guy. The way to become referral worthy is to become trustworthy, because referrals are based on trust. If you are not trustworthy, you're not getting referrals. All of my business, Jeff, all of it is referral based. And to do that, you have to have the reputation of being trustworthy, of I'm going to do what's in the best interest of you. And moreover, if you refer somebody to me, I'm going to make sure that I make you look like a rock star.
100%.
So if you say, hey, I'd like to introduce you to, so-and-so, and you send a mutual email, I'm not going to wait 3 or 4 or 5 days or 8 days. Okay. I'm going to get right on it. And I'm going to keep you up to date. Hey, letting you know, I spoke to George. We have a meeting next Monday. And then on Monday, hey, great meeting with George. Thank you again for the referral. The next step of the process is this. I'm going to keep you updated. And then I'm going to thank you with a handwritten note for the referral. That's how you become trustworthy. That's how you become referral worthy. And I posted recently on LinkedIn, a Vistage chair said to me in front of a bunch of other chairs, how come you've never given me a referral? And I said, what makes you referral worthy? And he said, I've been a chair for many years. Nope, not good enough. Nope.
Which is why when a company says, yeah, we've been in business for 100 years. Well, you could have been in business for 100 years doing crappy work.
That's it. And I always use this sort of terminology, Jeff. I always tell people, imagine there's a miniature Ken sitting on your shoulder. And when you say, we've been in business for 100 years, miniature Ken is whispering in your ear, so what?
I say that all the time. If you can't, as a salesperson, if you can't answer the so what, which is exactly what your prospect is thinking, you're lost.
That's right.
I have to agree with you on something else. I think I mentioned before, I get about a third of my business from LinkedIn, and I get another third of my business from the networking group I've been in for now 19 years. And the way I find that most people network is, okay, Ken, I'm going to make an introduction for you. Do me a favor, man. Don't make me look bad. I work in the opposite direction. Ken, I'm going to make an introduction for you. You better make me look good. I fully expect that if I introduce Ken Proctor to somebody, that somebody better call me up or email me afterwards, go, thank you for introducing me to Ken Proctor. Even if they're not going to use you, I love this guy. If I'm not getting that, I don't want to introduce you to anybody, because who am I going to introduce you to? I'm going to introduce you to my clients, my prospects, my associates, my clients. That's how I feed my kids. I'm not taking a risk on somebody who's just iffy. It's why when I get people all day long on LinkedIn, not recommending me, endorsing me. The recommendation, you have to take the time to write it. I like those, but those endorsements, you click a button. Jeff's a great salesperson. Jeff's a great salesman, whatever it is. And I know why they do it, even though they don't know me. They figure if they endorse me, I'm going to endorse them too. I'm not endorsing anybody who I don't know. It's just not the way I work. That's my reputation. That's my integrity. If I need you to trust me, like you talked about before, Ken's someone I can count on. He's someone I trust. I can't be giving away stuff like that just because you endorsed me. It doesn't make sense to me.
That's right.
We talked earlier about not coddling your clients and your kids. And you talked about not being overly easy on your kids, on your clients, on your employees. How does a great leader correct and motivate people without being overly tough?
Yeah. So there's correcting without embarrassing. Okay. And I've always believed that if you want to correct somebody, you want to support them, and you want to let them know that the reason why you're correcting them is for a better outcome for them. And, I'm a firm believer in being supportive, and the best time to be supportive is when somebody screws up. Now, if they're constantly screwing up, you need to let them go, you let them go. But if they screw up and it's just not common, go ahead and correct them. And then I might ask, so Jeff, tell me, what do you think went wrong? What could you have done differently? How could I be a better support to you? I had one CEO that whenever we would meet, he would constantly spend the first 30 minutes complaining about his leadership team. Every time. And I said, do you tell them what they need to do to get better? Damn right. You ever ask them what they need from you with regard to support to get a better outcome?
Yeah.
Silence. Okay. That, you want to support somebody, you want to help them get better. Don't just, crash their confidence every time, because how am I going to get up to the next morning and say, I'm excited to go to work when you absolutely took me to the woodshed? And I always ask, I will always say, listen, I need to correct you on this. I want to have a collaborative discussion afterwards on what you could do better and how could I better have supported you during this time.
Love that.
A lot different.
Yep, absolutely. Ken, I could talk to you all day, but sadly we're out of time. So I'm going to share my screen now. For the people who are watching, they'll be able to see it, but this will also be turned into a podcast in a week or so. How do people reach you if they're interested in getting in touch with you to work with you or find out more about what you do?
Yeah, you can email me at kennethproctor.com. I promise you, like you, Jeff, I will always respond to an email, text, voicemail. And then, just simply ask me, or tell me what you're looking for, and I'll just prepare for a whole bunch of questions. I'm going to ask you, if you want to work with me, let me understand what you're looking for. And if I can help you, wonderful. And if I can't, I might refer you to Jeff.
Love it. Ken, thank you so much for sharing your brilliance with us so generously today. I appreciate it. And I will end this as I end every one of these. Gang, please remember that sales is a game of making things happen. Get out there and make sales happen. Have a great weekend, everybody. Have a great weekend, Ken. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.